Under the sparkling chandeliers of the pavilion, an exclusive restaurant in the heart of the city, a muted elegance enveloped the atmosphere. The delicate notes of a piano floated in the air, and each table, illuminated by candles, seemed a realm of power and prestige. In a discreet corner, behind orchids and shadows, John Maxwell, 48, a technology billionaire and widower, sat alone. His perfectly tailored Armani suit and platinum watch captured the flickering lights, but nothing concealed the emptiness in his gaze. Before him, an untouched filet mignon exhaled a rich aroma, yet he did not touch it. The empty chair across from him resonated louder than the murmurs of the diners. 10 years had passed since the accident that took his wife Lillian and their 3-year-old son Caleb in a chaos of twisted metal. Since then, John had retreated into silence, routine, and an empire of distractions. His fingers tightened around a glass of Bordeaux, the red wine dancing like a specter. As he brought the glass to his lips, a soft, trembling voice broke the silence. "May I have your leftovers, sir?" John froze. He turned his head and saw a young woman, no more than 19, standing near his table. Her blonde hair, in a messy bun, framed a face marked by fatigue. Her worn coat battled the autumn chill. And in her arms, a 7 or 8-month-old baby, wrapped in a faded blanket, stared at the mashed potatoes on John's plate. The room fell silent, forks suspended, eyes converging on this unexpected scene. A waiter stepped forward, but John raised his hand, a discreet yet authoritative gesture. He observed the young woman. No shame, no manipulation in her eyes, just an exhausting determination for the child she protected. This moment, this simple whisper, would shake the walls that John had built around his heart. John stood still, his gaze fixed on the young woman and her baby. Her blonde hair, in rebellious strands, caught the candlelight like broken gold. Her coat, too short in the sleeves, was frayed, and her sneakers, soaked in the city's grime, looked ready to tear apart. But it wasn't her clothes that held his attention. It was her eyes. They did not plead, nor did they waver. They bore a dignity forged in adversity, a silent sadness, and an indomitable strength. She was not asking for herself, but for her child, whom she held with fierce tenderness. The baby, with wide, bright eyes, stared at John's plate with disarming innocence. John hesitated, a heartbeat suspended, then gently pushed the plate toward her. "Take it," he murmured, almost to himself. She did not rush for the food. With a reverence that struck John harder than a scream, she pulled a clean but worn square of cloth from her bag. Delicately, she wrapped the potatoes and slices of meat, folding the corners as if preserving a treasure. Then, kneeling carefully, she held the baby close and took a small plastic spoon from her pocket. John watched, captivated, as she gently blew on a portion of food before bringing it to the child's mouth. The baby, delighted, let out a joyful coo, its tiny hands patting its mother's chest. Her smile, illuminated by the candlelight, was so pure that it tightened John's heart. He looked away, troubled by an emotion he hadn't felt in years since his own son. The young woman, focused on her child, ignored the gazes of the wealthy diners around her. Each spoonful was given with infinite patience, every gesture imbued with sacred love. When the baby seemed satisfied, she tucked the cloth back in her bag, adjusted the blanket around him, and stood up. She gave a brief nod to John, a gesture that seemed to seal a silent agreement. Then she walked away, disappearing into the cold night beyond the glass doors. John sat still, motionless, staring at the spot where the young woman had vanished. The candle on the table flickered, casting golden shadows on the untouched glass of wine and the empty chair across from him. The world he knew seemed to have frozen, disturbed by this fleeting encounter. Without thinking, without analyzing, he stood up, placed his napkin on the table, and signaled to the astonished waiter. With calm determination, he pushed through the heavy doors of the restaurant and followed the young woman into the night. His footsteps echoed softly on the sidewalk, the noise of the city fading as she slipped into a narrow alley, clutching her baby against her like a fragile shield. She walked quickly but cautiously, as if every shadow could swallow her whole. John followed at a distance, driven by an instinct he did not understand. It was not pity, but a deep recognition, an echo of something he had lost. The alley opened onto a rundown parking lot, flanked by crumbling buildings. Among the carcasses of abandoned cars, an old navy blue station wagon stood out. The fogged windows and peeling paint betrayed a makeshift home. Without hesitation, she opened the back door and settled in with the baby, using a thin blanket as a mattress. She murmured sweet words, then began to sing a trembling lullaby. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. John, hidden in the shadows, remained frozen. The baby's hand clutched at his mother's collar, his eyes fluttering under the melody. The setting was grim, but the love emanating from them was undeniable. He stepped forward, and she jumped, their eyes meeting. I'm sorry, he said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. She stared at him, wary. You followed me? He nodded. I saw how you fed your son. I've never seen anything like it. After a silence, she murmured, his name is Noah. I'm Emily. John repeated, Noah, 8 months. She nodded. He loves mashed potatoes. Her voice trembled slightly. So does mine, he confessed. Something passed between them, a silent understanding of sorrow. Emily, always wary, stared at John, the man in the expensive suit standing in the shadows of an abandoned parking lot. Noah, in her arms, stirred gently, his little fingers clutching her collar. John, sensing her reluctance, remained still, his hands open to show he was not a threat. I don't want to scare you, he said softly. I just want to understand. After a long silence, Emily spoke, her voice flat yet honest. I was studying to become a nurse. Then I got pregnant. The father left. My parents disowned me. I've been alone ever since. She gestured to the car. We've been living in there for 2 months. I do cleaning jobs. I serve in restaurants when I can. John looked at the station wagon, a worn blanket, baby clothes piled like treasures. I can help you, he offered. A hotel, food, whatever you need. Emily raised her hand. I'm not asking for charity. Surprised, he asked, Then what do you want? She looked at Noah, asleep against her, and murmured, Just 1 day. 1 day where he is warm, fed, safe. That's all. These words struck John harder than a demand. Under the flickering light of a street lamp, he saw in Emily's eyes a familiar glimmer, an echo of Lillian's eyes, his late wife. Not identical, but close enough to crack something within him. The way Emily protected her son, her dignity intact despite adversity, awakened buried memories. He stepped back, suddenly unsteady. Thank you, he said, his voice hoarse. She frowned. For what? For reminding me that I still have a heart. Emily didn't respond, softly resuming her lullaby. John stood there, the melody wrapping around him like a lifeline. She didn't smile, but she didn't close the door either, and that tiny gesture seemed to say everything. As he walked away into the night, the image of Emily and Noah, alone yet united in their love, anchored itself within him. He didn't yet know what he would do, but one thing was certain. He couldn't turn his back on this mother and her child, whose simple courage had reignited a spark in his soul, extinguished for a decade. The image of Emily and Noah haunted John. No matter the meetings or emails, their faces, Emily's worn shoes, Noah's smile in front of the potatoes, remained etched in him. In a city where $8,000 wines were consumed, a mother survived with her baby through sheer resilience. John did not contact her immediately, but acted discreetly, with a precision that had built his fortune. He found their car parked near a vacant lot behind an abandoned church. Without approaching, he left packages before dawn: a box of formula, diapers, a container of homemade soup still warm. He arranged for a discreet visit from a pediatrician, presented as a member of a religious aid mission. Emily had no idea who had sent him, but after the doctor left, she held Noah tighter and whispered a thank you to no one in particular. At first, she remained wary, accustomed to disappointments. But these gestures, without notes or expectations, were constant. Gradually, suspicion gave way to a fragile hope. John asked for nothing, neither gratitude nor smiles. He acted, driven by an impulse he did not rationalize. Each package left was an attempt to mend something within him, a wound he thought forgotten. Meanwhile, Emily continued to survive, juggling odd jobs and caring for Noah. The nights grew colder, and Noah sometimes became restless. She sang to soothe him, her voice rising in the cramped confines of the car. The anonymous packages, though she did not know it, came from the man she had crossed paths with at the restaurant, the one whose eyes bore a pain similar to hers. John, for his part, felt his world changing. Distractions, his empire, his routines, lost their luster in the face of Emily and Noah's reality. He did not seek to play the hero, but to respond to his silent call. One night, as he left another package, he caught sight of Emily through the fogged glass, rocking Noah. He walked away without a word, but with the conviction that these gestures, however small, were the first steps toward a redemption he had never sought. One October evening, as the cold seeped into the streets, a catastrophe struck. Noah, grumpy all day, refused to eat, his forehead becoming burning hot. Emily, in the car, tried everything: cool compresses, lullabies, frantic rocking. But the fever rose, and Noah's cries became urgent, his breathing quick and weak. Panicked, she rushed to the nearest hospital, holding her son tightly. At the reception, the woman at the desk barely looked up. When Emily explained that Noah needed help, without insurance, the response was icy: "We are full. Try elsewhere or wait." Emily insisted, her voice breaking. "He's a baby. He has a 40-degree fever. He's unresponsive." But the receptionist remained unyielding. "Without insurance, I can't do anything." Desperate, Emily stepped out into the freezing air, Noah silent in her arms, a terrifying silence. Shivering, she held her son tighter, her tears freezing on her cheeks. In a final instinct, she took her old phone and typed 2 words: "Help us." She didn't know if John would come, nor why she trusted him. 6 minutes later, headlights swept the sidewalk. John emerged from his SUV, his jacket flying in the wind, his gaze determined. Without a word, Emily handed him Noah. The baby, weak, grasped his finger, a fragile but trusting gesture. John took him with surprising familiarity and rushed into the hospital. "I want a doctor now," he ordered the receptionist, his voice steely. "This child has a serious fever. I'll pay for everything, but if you waste a second, I'll buy this hospital and fire you all." Noah was taken care of immediately. Emily, exhausted, collapsed in the hallway, her head in her hands. John stayed by her side, silent. When a nurse announced that Noah was stable, Emily released a breath she had been holding for hours. She looked at John, her eyes shining. "You came." He nodded, "Of course." Emily's tears flowed, and she leaned against him, her body shaking with relief and sorrow. John embraced her, asking nothing, simply holding this mother shattered by fear. In that sterile hallway, under the cold fluorescent lights, An indefinable bond formed, not of declared love, but of a silent promise to never be alone again. Everything changed with a blurry photo taken at night. John Maxwell leaving a hospital, a baby in his arms, a young woman by his side. Within hours, the image flooded social media, blogs, and tabloids. The headline screamed, "Tech billionaire saves teenage mother, a con artist traps the mogul." Emily's identity was quickly revealed through a hacked hospital form. Comments poured in, a mix of praise and cruelty. Some hailed John's compassion, while others accused him of being manipulated by a gold digger. In the apartment John had rented for her and Noah, Emily, shrouded in darkness, stared at her phone. Each article, each insult tightened her heart. She turned off the screen, terrified that this hatred would touch her son. Noah slept in his crib, unaware of the turmoil. Emily, motionless, spent the night contemplating the void, her world shaken by public outrage. When John arrived the next day, he immediately sensed Emily's distance. She was withdrawn, her gaze dim. "I can't do this," she murmured. "I don't want Noah to grow up in this scandal, to read these lies one day and doubt me." John sat beside her. "You haven't done anything wrong. Neither has Noah." She shook her head. "People don't care. They've already decided who I am." John, his voice firm, replied, "Then let them discover who you really are." That afternoon, he contacted his press secretary, refusing filtered statements or interviews. He wanted to speak, simply, without artifice. The next evening, he appeared live on national television in a sober studio. Without preamble, he told his story, the loss of Lillian and Caleb, the void that had consumed him, the illusion of success. Then he spoke of Emily. "She wasn't begging. She wanted to feed her son. She took nothing from me. She gave me a reason to live again." He fixed the camera. "Emily is not a newspaper headline. She is a mother. Noah is not a pawn. He is a beautiful child. I didn't save them. They saved me." His speech, raw and human, changed the game. The next day, social media softened. Mothers shared their struggles. Nurses denounced the system's flaws. A wave of solidarity emerged, proving that a single act of truth could overturn hatred. The apartment that John had rented for Emily and Noah was modest yet warm, with soft gray walls and windows bathed in morning light. Emily settled in with 2 bags, a baby carrier, and a wariness forged by years of abandonment. But within a week, the space came alive. Noah's drawings taped to the fridge, socks drying on the radiator, the scent of baby lotion floating in the air. John came every morning, first under the pretense of bringing groceries or diapers, then out of habit. Noah would light up at his arrival, squirming in his crib. Emily, her hair always in a loose bun, brewed coffee, and they shared simple breakfasts, exchanging stories. John learned to hold a bottle correctly, to warm milk without scalding it, to change a diaper, first awkwardly, then with ease. He decoded Noah's cries, distinguishing hunger from discomfort. One afternoon, as he rocked Noah, the baby's tiny hand gripping his shirt, John realized he didn't want to leave. Not after the nap, not after the next hour. He wanted to stay. Emily noticed it too, the way John lingered, listening to Noah's babbles like symphonies. He sought neither to impress nor to control. He was there, day after day, with calm hands and eyes that, once empty, were filling with light. Emily had never known selfless love, a man who was content just to be present, without wanting to fix her or own her story. In the sweet moments between bottles and baths, a bond formed, not a passionate love, but a deep connection born of persistence. One evening, on the balcony, a shared blanket between them, the city sparkling below, John spoke. "When I lost Lillian and Caleb, I thought the part of me that wanted to love was dead. Emily, her eyes shining under the moon, whispered, "It's not dead. It was waiting." They did not kiss, but this moment sealed a tacit promise, stronger than words. In that silence, under the stars, an unexpected home took root, built on patience and mutual healing. One afternoon, a white envelope slipped under the apartment door, like an unexpected breeze. Emily stared at it for a long time before opening it, her hands trembling. Inside was her mother's neat handwriting, a few lines without grand apologies, just a simple request. "If there is still a chance to know my grandson, I would like to try." Emily sat at the kitchen table, the crumpled envelope in her hands, while Noah played with his colorful blocks. She did not cry, did not get angry, but the silence was suffocating. When John arrived, he found her motionless. "She wrote," she said without looking up. He read the letter, then sat beside her. "What do you think?" he asked. "I don't know," she admitted. "It's been almost 2 years since they disowned me, told me I was no longer their daughter." John replied softly, "You owe them nothing." But Emily, looking at Noah, murmured, "And him? Doesn't he deserve to know where he comes from, even if it's broken?" John thought, "Don't deny him the chance to forgive or not. Let him choose." 3 days later, they drove to Emily's hometown, a corner of green hills where every glance seemed heavy with memories. Her parents' house, at the end of a gravel driveway, looked unchanged, the white paint slightly chipped. Emily, no on her hip, stood frozen in front of the door. John, stepping back, gave her space. The door opened, revealing her mother, aged, her features softened by regret. She fixed her gaze on Noah, then on Emily, her eyes misty. "I wasn't strong," she murmured. "I was afraid of judgment, of losing the idea I had of you. And I lost you anyway." Emily remained silent, her jaw clenched. Her father appeared, nervous hands, looking at Noah as if he were a miracle. When Noah reached out, curious, something broke. Emily's mother collapsed, timidly asking, "Can I hold him?" Emily hesitated, then entrusted Noah to her. Her mother embraced him, crying softly. When Emily hugged her mother, the porch seemed to breathe. It wasn't a total absolution, but a beginning, a slow sunrise over a painful past. A year later, the media frenzy had quieted down, giving way to a simple and profound life. On a spring afternoon, they returned to a park where it all began, bathed in golden light. No floral arches or photographers, just close friends, a white blanket under an old oak tree, and a wooden arch adorned with ivy. In the center, Noah, almost 2 years old, dressed in a navy vest, wobbled towards John with determination, holding a velvet box. John, in a gray blazer, knelt down, taking the box from Noah's small hands, who giggled before joining Emily. She stood barefoot in the grass, her white dress fluttering in the wind, radiant not for her appearance, but for the life in her eyes. John stepped forward, knelt down, and the world seemed to hold its breath. "You didn't ask for anything," he said, his voice trembling. "You didn't beg. You appeared on the worst night of your life and reminded me what it means to be needed, to be alive." He opened the box, revealing a simple yet elegant ring. "You didn't take my leftovers, Emily. You gave me everything I was missing, a family, love, a future. Will you marry me?" Emily, tears in her eyes, nodded, laughing through her sobs. "Yes." They embraced, like two pieces of a puzzle finally reunited. During the vows, as John promised to love Emily and Noah, the little boy approached, wrapping his arms around John's leg. "Daddy." John, with misty eyes, lifted him, holding Emily with the other arm. "I love you, my son," he whispered. Under the sun, surrounded by friends, the wounds of the past softened. John hadn't saved Emily. She had saved him from grief, isolation, a hollow life. Together, they had built a family, not by blood, but by a whisper, a question, and a plate of potatoes. They weren't perfect, but they were together, and that was enough. A love story of redemption and second chances, born from a moment of compassion, proving that the most powerful miracles arise from the humblest moments.